Hey everybody, welcome to One More Round with Josh Norris. Today I'm super excited. I've got Mike, the founder and CEO of State 48 Apparel. And truly, I mean, it's the most iconic Arizona brand that I can think of. That and Arizona iced tea. But you know, you got it on billboards, you have it seems like you're working with, you know, a ton of the sports teams. And so today's gonna be awesome. We're gonna talk about so many things. Man, I appreciate you coming on.
Of course, thanks for the introduction. I think it's funny too because I think Arizona iced tea is not even from here.
Yeah, probably
I don't think
not.
they're manufactured here, so I could be wrong, but that's what I heard. But thank you for the intro.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I was Barstool Sports put out like what are the best things under $1, and that was like one of the 5 things was Arizona iced tea, and then they just increased their prices to $1.25.
Inflation, yeah, that's what I saw a meme too. It's like inflation's real when Arizona iced tea prices increase.
Exactly. No, but I mean it's true. The brand you've built is pretty incredible. So I'm excited to dive in a little bit on that, the backstory, and then really today you've got a ton of things going on, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it keeps us busy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you get started with the State 48 brand?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Chandler, Arizona. It was a passion of mine. Since I've been a little kid, my mom can vouch for me as I always loved clothes. Back to school shopping is my favorite thing to do regarding school, unless it was involving marketing as I grew up. But like it used to upset me going to Cardinal games at Sun Devil Stadium and see most of the fans being opposing fans, or like we were talking before the show, like people in high school ready to explore other opportunities outside of Arizona, like genuinely upset me. And since I always loved clothes, and back then too, it was like the 3 for $10 corny Walgreens shirts that were representing Arizona for tourists and for hometown, men and women and boys and girls. And that just wasn't good enough for me. So my partners at the time, Stefan and Nick, which I know Stefan came up with the name State 48. Nick came up with our logo, which you're wearing on your chest. It's just become like our main logo, an iconic logo. And my business background, we just all went for it. We started with $1,500 and put it all into a trademark. And here we are today. We were the first company, which I'm always proud of, because there's a lot of confusion now with all the State 48 organizations. We were the first company to ever trademark State 48 in Arizona, and now there's 70 plus organizations. So it's just been so cool to see it grow and evolve. And we're hustlers, so we're always like, what's the next 10 things we have to do?
Well, so what was it like early in the day? Obviously, if I remember right, Stephen said like the first logo that Nick created was like what you ran with, which is insane in and of itself. But how did you start getting your word out initially? Yeah,
so again, we're hustlers. I mean, we worked full-time jobs the first 3 years. Like Stefan mentioned, we created our main logo. People absolutely love the main logo, especially what it stood for. Back in 2013 when we created our brand message, it's clothing for all inspired by Arizona. And I know that's kind of the trendy thing now to say we're all inclusive. I mean, that's been since day one, right? Like it's whether you're Republican, Democrat, blue, orange, like we don't care. If you love Arizona, that's what it's all about. It's just spreading love. And it was tough. I mean, we were, again, working full-time jobs. Like in my experience, I was an operations manager in the hotel industry, working the 10, 12 hours days at the hotel, but I had the passion to continue wanting to work after hours. So it was nonstop. But like, this is my calling in life, and this is why I was so excited to celebrate those small wins and keep hustling. And we were selling shirts at our house. We did our big launch party on the tavern on Mill Avenue down the street when it was there. Anyone who would allow us to sell outside of our website, we did it. And we just kept gaining success and got our first big partnership with Bruce Arians, the former Cardinals head coach, and they become like family now. And that gave us a lot of credibility. Then we started our collaboration structure, and it just kind of kept growing. So I'm proud to say we've grown year over year, 9 years into it, but we still have a long way to go.
So, I've watched pretty much from the beginning the brand grow, and having businesses myself and working with a lot of business owners. You grew fast. I mean, and to you, you're probably like, damn it, no, I could have grown faster. But the trajectory at times were fast, right? How did you manage the supply and all that kind of stuff?
Great question. And I laugh because it's always like my mind, it's a blessing and curse, but it's like in my role, it's like, what are the next 10 things you need to do? And even if you get a big win, you're like, okay, like sometimes like you're not even like celebrating that or appreciating that. It's like, all right, we got
Yeah.
these things to do, and it's just kind of like, push that to the side. But I think what we always did well is we never tried to do too much at once, and we did and we didn't, right? Like we had to wear a lot of different hats, starting with just 3 of us until we were able to build an incredible team. But it was just like, hey, getting in the airport, great, awesome. We went through Phoenix Fashion Week, learned the business of fashion, awesome. Bruce Arians, awesome. Started working with the Diamondbacks, so like. And that was a big leap of faith, like partnering with the Diamondbacks and investing some money, some big money at that stage in our business. And we're proud to say, obviously, we got through it and still partners today. But yeah, it was just really, I think what we were smart about is utilizing our network too. Even like Janice, who's a big part of our team now, leads up our PR efforts. I've known her, from way before State 48. Like everyone that works with us had some type of tie. Jenica, who started off as and still a photographer with us today, she loved what we were doing. You need those people around you that like are just as passionate about what you're doing. And even Dave, who's helped us start our website, these are all people we already knew that you can't start a business for the most part. I read a stat, it's like most businesses start with less than $5,000, and that's like so incredible to hear because there's so much opportunity. But my point is that you need to utilize your network, because you can't just go build a team and pay everyone what they're worth at the beginning. So thankfully, it was very challenging in the beginning because we're stubborn and all trying to do all the same stuff. But as we were able to grow and delegate and stuff, like what we learned too the most is that the more you put into yourself, the more you put into the right people, the more you're going to grow. Like solve a problem, be good people, it's going to work out.
Right, absolutely. And so, I mean, having partners, because I have partners in a few of my companies, and it's great. But they're the other side of that coin. A lot of people are like, oh man, partners are terrible. I can't do it. Yeah. Which usually is an indication that I would never want to partner with that person. Yeah. But what was it like working with them, being, stubborn, a little bit? And did you fall into your own roles type of thing?
So we had our interesting dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Like we had, so Steph and I grew up together. My dad was our T-ball coach. Never thought we'd have been in business together. We were working together at the hotel. He knew what I was trying to start. He actually came up with the name. So like, okay, hey, let's do this. And then we brought Nick, his younger brother, who were their like best friends, self-taught graphic designer. He wasn't even part of the original, plan, but we needed a designer. It's like, hey, and that's again, you don't know what you don't know, right? So like, let's just all 3 of us just go equal, all pitch in $500, put towards the trademark, and here we are today. But like, we didn't start off with a formal operating agreement. Like we didn't define our roles. Like I remember times where we were all just arguing about like what we're gonna post on social media. I'm like, this is such a waste of time, right? So like, we had plenty of arguments, and it's very, very challenging to work with friends and family. Stefan could probably relate it when he came on your podcast maybe, but Stefan's no longer in the business, but obviously he's a huge part of, and I'm happy to say like we went our separate ways, but it's helped our relationship because we couldn't stand each other when we were working together, and he would say the same thing. I'm like go kind of a workaholic and hard on people sometimes, like in a positive way. Sure. But like when you're working with friends and family, it's harder to have those honest conversations. And like, but I also say we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't because of 3 of us, because we all had respect for each other. We all worked hard, but like it's more than, you could be the best human in the world, but it doesn't mean it's a right fit on the business side, right? So that's where it was tough for many years. It was the only thing that ever bothered me until Steph and I just had an honest conversation. We like, and because Nick still wanted to do this, and Stefan was like passionate about doing other things, which was like great. Now he's happy, he's doing his thing in Portland, and I'm happy and able to be in the role I wanted to be in. So we had a success story there, but I hear horror stories all the time about partners breaking up, and like just I always like to make that clear to anyone interested in business. You better like figure that stuff out, like who's going to be doing what before you just get into it, and make sure like going business with friends and family. I know there's a lot of success stories, but a lot of people tell you how hard it is too.
Well, and I can relate because when I took on a partner in Afshock, now he was already kind of in a mentor role for me, which was his primary function, is coming on because like he's much older, done super well in business, knew things, my craziness that could rein me in sometimes, but he took me through the full process of no, we're gonna do an operating agreement, and it's like like 9 or 10 pages, and we went through everything, we talked about it, and he's like, yeah, when we're done with this, probably never even gonna look at it again. However, this is how you do things properly.
Yeah, in case something happens,
exactly,
and you need to revert back to that or buy-sell agreements. Yep.
It's because it is like a marriage to a degree. You're in love in the beginning, but if something happens or you want to go your separate ways, there's got to be a way to split the sheets, and it outlines all that, type of thing. So yeah, I'm always encouraging entrepreneurs, if they're looking to get into their own business, do it right. You don't necessarily have to have all the roles completely mapped out, because obviously that changes. But
and that's why we were so passionate about starting a foundation 2 years ago that supports aspiring entrepreneurs, because now more than ever, after the pandemic and during the pandemic, people kind of reset their careers and their lives and just say, hey, I'm going for what I believe in, or realizing that the opportunities are endless out there. So we want to give people that knowledge and utilize our network to give that free knowledge of hey, we did a lot of things the wrong way.
Yeah.
Don't learn, from our mistakes, because that can kill your business. And thankfully, we overcame a lot of those, but we did it right. The biggest thing, probably biggest thing we did right, the best thing we did right was getting our trademark and getting that locked and loaded before we started selling shirts.
That's a really smart thing to do. And so how did you guys know to do that? Did you have some early mentorship?
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I mean, I had always great circle and great people around me, but I always tell people, it was we had limited funds, no funds really. We had limited resources. You kind of just had to figure things out. And of course, you could also be guilty of feeling bad for asking for help to others. But that's why I think it's always so important, more than ever, and even today, is who I try to surround myself with. People is who I can learn from, who can motivate me, who can inspire me. That's at this point in my life. That's if you don't kind of fit that mold or have fun, then it doesn't make sense. But I think it's super important to have that network, that you can have a support system, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do on the foundation side, is create this infrastructure, the support system to help businesses and entrepreneurs become sustainable. Because it's so hard, and that's what people need to realize. It's not easy. It gets harder the more you grow too.
Right. Well, and I love the organization. So let's talk a little bit about that, because you're giving back.
Yeah.
Obviously your brand is at a point where it's sustainable for 20 years. Maybe more. Right? You never know. But a lot of entrepreneurs are just getting started. They don't know where to start taking advice or getting that. So tell us about this foundation and what kind of things somebody could get from it.
Yeah, so even before that, our brand's always been big about collaboration, right? That wasn't the original business model, but it turned into working with, all these different organizations. You see it, you go on our social media, even year to date, we've worked with 290 organizations that want a co-branded design. Not all of our shirts have a meaning or behind it. It's a lot of fun stuff, but our co-branded stuff a lot of times add value. It allows nonprofits to create funding, and working with Phoenix Children's Hospital and Dignity Health and so many great organizations around the Valley. It's incredible that they want to be a part of State 48. So my point of that is we've always wanted to be so much more than selling t-shirts and hats. And that was a big part of it. But as anyone knows in business, for profit, you can only do so much. You can only say yes to so many things. So we're let's create this foundation, which is organic to us. And we're 2 years into it, and we're still figuring out a lot of things, because that's another startup, right?
Yeah.
First year, we were kind of all over the place on what we wanted to do. This year we've had a lot more clarity. It's hey, we're raising funds to support aspiring entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years into it, 2 days into it, if it's just an idea. We want to help, and it's seeing our crowds at our speaker series is incredible, because the demand is out there. And from experience, people would I'm always I want to help, right? So people reach out all the time. Where do I submit for a trademark? Where do I get an LLC? Where do I do this? Who do you use for marketing? There's so many questions. A lot of that kind of stuff you got to kind of figure out on your own sometimes, but how do we help the masses? And that's ultimately what we're doing. So this is our second year doing a speaker series with great entrepreneurs and just marketing and business people around the Valley, lending their free advice, expertise, and then we're giving out $25,000 in small business grants to help. Because again, you don't need $1 million to start a business. Now, if you're in the tech world, okay, that's a whole nother beast. Yeah. But again, like I said earlier, most businesses start with less than $5,000. So if you need that, like us, when you need that $1,500 to submit for a trademark, or I don't know if that's the price now, but or to hire a graphic designer to just do a couple of logo, there's so much you can utilize some startup money with. So,
Yeah.
and I think more important than that, it's the resources and the tips and the motivation of like whether you're a free started off selling magazines and now an Inc. 5000 and or State 48 with selling T-shirts or whatever. It all is kind of the same stuff. You got to solve a problem, you got to treat people right, and you got to always continue to adapt and evolve, and you can't have all your eggs in one basket. So really, really passionate about the entrepreneur speaker series and what we're doing on the foundation side.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, you're doing a great thing there because I haven't been to that, so I'd love to come to the next one when you do it. Wednesdays, right?
Every Wednesday. Next Wednesday is week 4, our final week. Okay. It's also virtual too. So even if you head over to State 48 Foundation YouTube channel, all that stuff that's already taped is free. Like we just want to add value, but then if you want to take it to a next step and apply for grants, we're going to be awarding $25,000 in increments.
Yeah. When I looked at some of the speakers that you had and their backgrounds and pedigrees, and the fact they're giving away this information for free is huge.
Even like last week we had the legal part of it. Trust me, we pay a lot of legal fees now. I know how expensive attorneys are, but we had 3 great people that had completely different backgrounds, and that's the point too, is like to bring a diverse group in that like has all these different experiences. Even like for our marketing panel, we had a Scott Harkey, president of OH, who's a huge advertising brand,
gigantic building in downtown Phoenix.
And we have the lady represents Cold Stone and big brands. We got Ashley, who's a startup on her own. E Square Marketing, and then we had Terrence, who's the founder of Heavy Pedal and First Place Coffee, so more local, like doing big things. So like that way, everyone in the room could always relate. And next week we have Dr. Roddy from BackFit, which if you listen to Arizona Sports, you need to hear that commercial. Great guy, great partner. He's gonna be one of the speakers talking about systems and processes. So it's a really cool group. And when you look in the room, I mean, we were talking to a couple from India that have a PhD and they're trying to solve this big problem, and they're like inspired but like by the knowledge that was given at the marketing. So like it's just really cool to touch people that way. Well,
and what I love about it too is not only the pedigree of the people that are teaching, but it's all Arizona based from what I just heard. So I'm gonna switch things up. What's it like being on a billboard? Because I saw you on a billboard driving down on Indian School yesterday.
Yeah, it's fun to get tagged on there. But like, so 1AZ Credit Union is a big partner of ours, and that's again where it's so cool to see our brand evolve, and so grateful all these organizations want to be a part of it. But they approached us a few years ago about being an exclusive partner with them. And we do a ton of business with them, but we have a credit card with them. So you can get a State 48 credit card. You can see all the information on our State 48 1AZ credit card. And it's so important more than ever to keep your money local. I'm guilty of being with Chase and Bank of America, nothing against them, but like Local First Arizona does a great job of explaining how quickly, like your money, if you don't have your money tied locally, I think 91% of it goes outside of Arizona. So they've been incredible. So to your point about the billboard, they wanted me to be on there and representing their brand and State 48, so no brainer for us. And they've just been an incredible partner. So it's always fun to get the
wanted to do.
I never thought about it, but like, hey, whatever. It's funny. We work with like all the accident attorneys and Rafi and the Grete, and it's like you see their faces everywhere, and it's just cool. It's like obviously that's kind of the name of the game of like just being. I even read something recently where it's like 80% Americans were more likely to buy something if they know who the founder is or if they can align with their values. They say personal branding is so important, which I agree. So you get why you see that stuff.
Yeah. So at the beginning, you were talking about always having like 10 things or you had. Today, how do you choose what you spend your time on?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's still always a challenge. I think one thing I've learned over the years that I've gotten so much better about is just planning my week, just strategizing, having like a kind of set routine. Of course, you're always going to go a different ways, but making sure, even one of my goals on my whiteboard is to spend more than half of my week working on the business, not in the business, because we can all get trapped in emails and that kind of stuff. But a lot of my week now too are working with the team, developing the team, and that's what pays off big time, right? Like in having internal, external meetings. But it's tough. Like I think what helps me is just always having those clear goals and be able to check them off. I have a daily to-do list that doesn't always get done daily. I have a big picture list, and at the end of the day, you put more into what your customers, that's always what I take a lot of pride in. I'm huge on customer service, no BS, like no fake stuff just to get people believe in you. It's like, come from a hotel background, like, hey, let's go above and beyond here, and like let's appreciate every dollar that's spent. So it's not about us, it's about what the customers are telling us. So if we're doing really good on these type of designs, put more energy into that. Or if we're like, these type of deals are doing, so you kind of just have to go through a lot of those things. But over 9 years now, you kind of realize, knowing your community, what works, what doesn't work. But you're still surprised today of like what you might think was going to be a home run and it's not. So yeah, it's just is that organization, and I'm still far from perfect, is just like knowing, just kind of having those checklists is super important to keep you in check.
Yeah, so I do something similar on Sunday. I learned it from Darren Hardy. It's basically just 4 quadrants, and then the bottom quadrant is things I need to stay away from during the week.
Yeah.
The other ones, like, I group into different businesses or things I want to do with my family. But I even forget what he called it. But yeah, just
That's
the
smart.
things to avoid.
And I've gotten a lot better at saying no to a lot of things. And I'm still guilty of like, and I think it's important to say yes to a lot of things, because you just never know who you're going to meet, you know, being out and about. That's a big part of my role, is like, I'm not BSing, like every time, you know, go out or, you know, have drinks or dinner or whatever opportunity, a game, you run into someone that ends up turning into a relationship, you know, business, personal, whatever. And it's like, that's what I love the most, is just being able to build like genuine relationships where you can have, you know, not every, you know, partnership's going to be long lasting. You know, some might just be one and done, you know, nothing bad about that, but we're always looking for, how can we have the partners long term? How can we make this easier and just keep it all and help each other out and stuff? So
I think relationships are the most important thing in any business. I mean, because no matter whether it's your type of business or mine or a manufacturing company, like, you depend on vendors, you depend on your customers, you know, and your staff, your team, and it's like relationships. But if you're not out there, how can you meet new people? How can you?
And I get so frustrated too, and it is what it is. But like, in the people that are in this space, just in marketing or business development, they get it, right? But like, oh, must be nice to do this, that. It's like, that's where you build trust and loyalty, and like, people want to work with who they like and they trust. So having a drink with someone goes a long way. Having, you know, spending your Friday, you know, meeting about this, like, goes a long way. Like, you have to, like, in my opinion, like, that's, in my humble opinion, is why we continue to grow and separate ourselves from any potential competition, is our partnerships, our collaborations. Now, again, we're not perfect, and that's the opportunity too, is we're having more people kind of do the roles as myself too, like making sure they understand that too. And like, a lot of that just comes natural, in my opinion. You got to be a good human and people person, but there's also those learning curves as, you know, younger generation, you know, adapting and stuff. So
yeah, a lot of the younger generation have a challenge doing this, you know, sitting across and talking. So one of the things my wife and I, we've recently just started doing is every Friday we have a whole list that we're making of people that we just want to get to know better. Could be business related, you know, like we have a couple coming over from church tonight. We had some business people over last week, because then it's intentional, and like, we're building those relationships, because when you're breaking bread or you're having a drink or whatever with somebody, like, now it's a new connection, and I think that's so important. Because like social media, you see somebody that's got, you know, whatever, 50,000 people that, you know, on Instagram, and it's like, well, that's cool. How many real relationships do they have in addition to that? Like,
and that's what gets me going too, is just not even just relationship with your partners, our team. Like, I love our team. Like, of course, again, we're not perfect. Like, we're growing. We have a great foundation now. But like, you know, during the pandemic, and you know, we had everyone, you know, mostly, you know, our designers and everyone working remote, and I was adamant of like, you know, hey, we're all going to work, you know, we'll let you do the hybrid, but like, we need to build culture. We need to know, and that's part of it too, is like, we could all text and email and DM and all that kind of stuff, but just walk in that room, have a conversation, or if a partner's going back and forth on emails, call the person. Like, it's like, we forget that, like, and because then sometimes, like, you know, texts and emails can be so misleading, and it's like so much a waste of the time of just like, and that's why the joke about me is always like, I'm so behind on email. I get a lot of them, but like, I'd rather call someone. I mean, of course, not every situation, but like, you just get so much like figured out, and you get to know too your coworker of like how they operate and that kind of stuff. But if you're if everyone just, I'm going to work remote and hide in my room the rest of my life, like you're losing out on so much people skills.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm old school there, but like I think we're forgetting about that part of the
I agree 100%.
component.
People need people. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the reality. Like, you need this kind of connection and communication to really live a fulfilled
Yeah.
life. You can't get it just through a phone or a TV
Yeah.
or, shooting emails and all that kind of stuff. My partner, he's told me many times, when he was first starting to coach me, he's like, just pick up the phone. Like, if somebody shot off an email that maybe wasn't so kind, and rather than responding, he's like, no, just pick up the phone.
I tell
and talk to
Chloe
him.
would laugh if she heard us talking about this too, because I'm like, you're like ready to like respond, not like in a bad way or anything, but just like ready. She's like so great at her organization of like, I want to be at 0 emails all the time. I'm like, but if it is like a long, lengthy, don't go back and forth 8 times.
Yeah.
Just call the person. Let's just get figured out. Especially, if it is potentially like coming across in the wrong way, just, call and be like, hey, I'm sorry if this came across in the wrong way or whatever. But like, we forget, like, we're always like, I don't think it's just our world now, but like, it's just like boom, 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 where I want to like,
Well, I think it's one of the biggest life hacks. If you just pick up the phone, and let's say it's potentially a negative situation, well, all the emails and back and forth, all the stuff in your gut, you're just like, and you're anticipating the next email. No, just...
And it's affecting the rest of your day and all that kind of stuff.
Hammer it out. It takes 5 minutes.
I'm guilty of like, I can send a message that comes across the wrong way, or I'm very short a lot of times with my text messages, because I'm just like, that was funny. We were even joking yesterday. I'm going to start just doing voice messages all the time. Like, you hear the tone, like you just like, I don't know, it's just, we forget about the human component so much now.
Yeah, I like the voice text. In fact, I just connected with a guy named Nick through Instagram, but he has a podcast out here, and he had sent me a voice text through Instagram. I'm like, huh. Yeah. And what was crazy is
separates them.
Exactly, but I've never sent one. But guess how I responded? Through a voice text through Instagram. I'm like, something to it. So kind of, you're right, because I could hear his tonality, and we ended up, connecting, and like we might end up, he might end up on the podcast. It's kind of cool.
And that's even on the brand side too. Like, it's always, I still manage all our social media. Of course, I have help with like content and all that, but like, I take pride in still responding to people, because I know I'm going to go above and beyond, or I'm going to show personality, or I'm going to say, thank you so much for wearing your stuff. I think brands forget that you need to show the humans behind it. So even showing like our team members is extremely important. That's a big part of our strategy moving forward. But like, I was even joking yesterday with Chloe. I'm like, I'm going to start from State 48, just sending voice replies and stuff, just to not worry about typing, and just like that's going to kind of be like something different,
It is. It's totally different. I mean, it was the first one that ever had been sent to me. And like, we were doing it with my IV company, to where we were sending a video to some of the people that we collaborate with. And that was actually super effective. Challenge is shooting a video isn't always the most convenient, or like if you're not in like a good area for it. So, but the voice text would work great too. So I think I'm going to start implementing that. That's pretty good.
There we go.
So what's next? What are the next couple things you got on the plate?
Yeah, so we're working hard at getting our Gilbert location open. So we're opening a 3rd retail location in downtown Gilbert, right behind the porch. We're going to be next to 3 other businesses: Rumble Boxing, Scoop Wells, and Cano Chemistry.
Cool.
Up top, it's called the Collab Building. Up top, there's office space, and then we'll have frontage glass, frontage right off the road. Really pumped for that, just because that was agreed upon prior to the pandemic, and all that delayed everything. But there's just so much people down there, and Gilbert, East Valley's booming.
I live 2 miles from there. That's my stomping ground.
I'm pumped for that, and we've invested quite a bit of money into the look and construction and being brand new. So really excited for Gilbert. A milestone that we just accomplished was being approved for a State 48 Foundation license plate. So we're working through that. We're able to submit. We're going to be able to submit mock-ups with ADOT in September.
Cool.
So then we should be able to have that available to the public in November, December, and I think that will be a tremendous game changer for our foundation, because you don't have to be a Cardinal fan, Suns fan. You just live in Arizona. You love State 48. It's a cool logo. Hopefully, it's a top selling plate, and we can generate a lot of funds for our foundation, which helps give back more. Because right now we spend so much of our time working on fundraising events and such, and like this could help dramatically of like focusing more on the programming side and doing more speaker series, giving out more money. So really passionate about that. And just, we're actually launching our own podcast
Cool.
end of the month. Lisa Matthews, a great friend of mine, used to be with the Arizona Cardinals. She recently came on the team, and just so grateful to have her. And she's kind of strategizing, and we're going to make sure we just be able to articulate more of what we do. A lot of times people are confused on all our different services we offer, especially now in the last year or so. We offer more B2B services, screen printing, embroidery, art branding. So like really created a one-stop shop for apparel and design in Arizona. But we need to be able to share that. Video is everything now. We all know that. We all talk about the foundation, entrepreneurship, partnerships, new deals, products, all that kind of stuff. So really, really pumped for that. So those are kind of like some main things, and just continue to grow and evolve. And hopefully the Suns and the Cardinals can bring home some trophies this year. But it's just, this is always the best time of year, in my opinion, too. Of like right before football season starts, the weather will start cooling down, and all the events are happening, and there's everything going on every weekend. So that's why everyone moves and lives in Arizona.
Yeah, I love it because the Cardinals start, and then the Suns are in November. And then like I'm not a huge baseball fan really anymore, but like the Diamondbacks are like just ending up, so October. I don't know if they're even good now, but
they're going through a rough patch, but their future is bright. They're starting to bring up the young guys, and I'm a big fan of Torey Lovello and Mike Hazen, and so they'll get it together.
Yeah,
but you gotta stay loyal no matter what.
Absolutely. Hey, I was at 2 of the games, the World Series '01. Yeah, my dad and I went, and it was amazing. We were at Game 2 and then Game 7, and then Game 7. I had stayed out all night long at Fiesta Mall, literally sitting out because you were waiting, and I think it was the Champs. No, it wasn't Champ. It was one of you could buy tickets in there.
Okay.
The line was all the way out to the freaking sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I ran into one of the guys I went to high school with too, that he was sitting right next to me.
That's dope.
So I was out there for 12 and a half hours. Now it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm getting ready. And everybody can only buy 4 tickets, right? And this New York, I didn't know he was a New York fan, but he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, if I give you an extra $200, can I get 2 of your tickets?" And I've been sitting out there all night long.
Yeah.
But it was just for me and my dad. So I'm like, easy way to make $200. So we get to the game 7, not even knowing if it was going to happen, because at this time they were selling in Game 5, and
okay, got it.
So anyway, I get the tickets. Give the 2 to the dude, gives me the cash. I'm like, oh, this is great. Go home and tell my dad, you did what? We could have scalped those tickets for like $600 a piece. I'm like, oh, yeah, we could have. So then we get to...
That's who you get for selling to a New York fan.
And I didn't know he was from New York until he sat down right next to us.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad says, "You sold your tickets to a New York fan?"
Yeah, at least you got to see the loss. I was just watching The Captain. I don't know if you watched that series all with Derek Jeter.
No.
And part of that then shows that 2001 and showing like that whole series, and it was like so many ups and downs. But I remember vividly, and it's funny because I don't remember yesterday sometimes, but like I remember I was working front desk at the hotel in Chandler, and I remember watching the World Series, going back and forth from the front desk, checking people in and helping people, watching the TV and going nuts once they won. But
it was insanity being there.
We need some more of those.
We do.
memories.
Dude, almost had the Suns there.
Yeah.
Almost. Darn Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
But this is awesome. Is there where can people find the clothing and the foundation?
Yeah. So if you just go to state48.com, that's all spelled out. Our foundation information is on there, our credit card information, our products, like our retail locations. That's a one-stop shop for us. That's just the easiest. And then we're all over social media at State48 on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. So
awesome. A little bit everywhere.
Game. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is great, man. I know you guys got a ton out of this. Make sure you like it. Put a comment down below and subscribe to the channel. We have lots of great people just like Mike that are coming in to share ideas and stories. So we appreciate it, and we will see you next time.